Here's a brief overview of GitHub Projects. Sorry I couldn't come to this special lab meeting. Feel free to play this at 2x speed. Okay, so in general, GitHub Projects is essentially like a graphical interface that goes over the actual like task management issues system of GitHub. So like this is just like the normal GitHub issues that you're used to seeing inside GitHub. This is where all the features that we were talking about in that spreadsheet, the project management software spreadsheet, that's where all that comes from. Is actually the features come from just regular GitHub issues. The projects, it just lets you do a couple extra graphical organization things. So by default, it's a spreadsheet looking thing where it would just like filter in all your issues from the various repositories that this project is like connected with, and then you can like just see all its features in like this like spreadsheet columnar like format. Where things get interesting is where you can like basically start doing your grouping, your sorting, your all sorts of like regular spreadsheet operations, and you can do things like put it into like a Kanban board format. So if this is something you wanted to do, this is the most like frequently used format I use, especially because it automatically generates these to-dos in progress done like tags. And then recently, actually, they added this roadmap thing, which is pretty cool. So if you want to do the Gantt chart feature, this is how you would do that. So here's where like I added this extra like due date tag, which is a custom field. This is not something that came with by default. You just add the date fields if you're using something that is date related, and then you can use this Gantt chart style cascading view. Okay, so that's a general overview of what GitHub Project does. Is literally just that, just does UI elements. All the other features, including like setting prioritization, deadlines, subtasks. These are all just features of GitHub issues in general. So like assignees, labels is how I would do like the priority. So there isn't like a necessarily a priority like level thing, but you can always create labels that with different colors that indicate different things for priority levels, how long you expect it to take, or any sort of task like that. They recently introduced this type system, so you can abstract away this bug feature task, like these three basic things from the labels. I mean, they clearly still have a labels thing for bug, but like the idea now is that you use bug here to say something's a bug, and then use the labels to do things like describe as priority level. Um, by default, you have to manually assign issues into a project, but this can be automated in many several ways. But like inside the projects, there's like this workflow thing. This is more advanced usage, but in workflow, you can just turn on a bunch of these features to be like, oh, when an issue is created in such a repository, it will automatically be added to a project. Yeah, and subtasks. So when you create a GitHub issue, you can always use the markdown checkboxes, and that will create a counter for like issue like tasks that are specific to this issue. And then recently you can create sub issues which links to other issues in this like one to many relationship. So this is a parent issue that links to many sub issues, and these sub issues are just like normal issues themselves, except they have this relationship, this hierarchical relationship. This isn't like a strong, what's it called, interdependencies marker, but it does like show you if there's a relationship and how many subtasks are completed from the main issue. Yeah. So one other thing I just want to mention is that the way projects are organized is that it's actually a layer above repositories. So this is a organization like the Steinmetz Lab organization. You can have many repositories. Repositories in there contain there's particular issues, and then projects sit as a separate entity used to organize things together. So, for example, if I were to look at my issue management, which I think is a funny name, in the virtual brain lab, there's pinpoint, EFIS link, and then our documentation website, and also like the VBL Aquarium data structure repository. These are separate repositories with different milestones that I can now have these different views which are like in this case my Kanban views for each of these different milestones, and I can separate my issues into the things that are assigned to me and are of like the 2.0 milestone, or in this case assigned to me and are the 2.1 milestone. And so this is where I can separate out all my tasks, and you can have one for each person. All the features you see here should be free, especially if you have a public repository. Everything's basically free if you use public repositories. If you use a private repository, then some things I think are like rate limited, like you can only do so many views or so many automations, but in general, everything should be just free and ready to be used, especially for public repositories. Okay, feel free to Slack me if you have any questions, but that's the general overview of GitHub Projects. I think it's a really powerful tool, especially when you want to do code related things, and if you're used to creating issues for code. There's a lot of cool features that I didn't mention here, including creating branches and like workspaces based off issues. And this is all just built into GitHub in general. Cool, thanks.